This is the story of a world that covers more of our planet than any other habitat, and yet almost no human has ever seen it. Less than 0.01% of the deep ocean floor has been directly observed, an area roughly the size of Rhode Island spread across terrain larger than all the continents combined. 70% of Earth's seafloor sits below 10,000 feet, which translates to 300 million square kilometers of perpetual darkness, where pressures would crush a human body instantly and temperatures hover just above freezing. Life thrives there anyway. Strange life, ancient life, organisms that have solved problems we are only beginning to understand exist in the first place. Here is something that surprises most people. More humans have now visited the deepest point in the ocean than have walked on the moon, and what they found down there challenges everything we thought we knew about biology, about what life requires to survive, and about what might exist on worlds beyond our own. We are going to start at the bottom. The ocean divides into layers based on depth, and once you descend below 10,000 feet, you enter what scientists call the abyssopelagic zone, a name drawn from the Greek word abyssos, meaning bottomless. This zone stretches from about 13,000 to 20,000 feet and covers 83% of total ocean area, which works out to 60% of Earth's entire surface. Below that lies something even more extreme called the Hadal Zone, named after Hades, the Greek god of the underworld. Danish oceanographer Anton Fredrik Brun proposed the term in 1956, and it fits perfectly. The Hadal Zone begins around 20,000 feet and plunges down to nearly 36,000 feet in the deepest ocean trenches on the planet. What makes the Hadal Zone so unusual is this: despite covering less than 0.25% of the seafloor, it accounts for over 40% of the ocean's total depth range. 94% of these environments exist in the Pacific Ocean, carved into long, narrow gashes in Earth's crust that we call trenches. The deepest trench of all is the Mariana, located about 200 kilometers east of the Mariana Islands in the Western Pacific, stretching 2,550 kilometers long and 69 kilometers wide. At its lowest point sits a slot-shaped depression called Challenger Deep, where the ocean floor drops to 10,135 meters below the surface, give or take 6 meters, which comes out to 35,026 feet. To understand that depth, picture this. You could drop Mount Everest into Challenger Deep, stack 4 Empire State Buildings on top of it, and the peak would still sit underwater. So what are conditions actually like down there? Water pressure increases by approximately 1 atmosphere for every 10 meters you descend. At sea level, you experience 1 atmosphere of pressure, about 14.7 pounds per square inch pressing against your body. At 3,000 meters, roughly 10,000 feet, that climbs to about 301 atmospheres, meaning 4,400 pounds crushing every square inch. Challenger Deep, the pressure reaches between 1,086 and 1,127 atmospheres, which translates to roughly 16,000 pounds per square inch, or about 8 tons of force on every square inch of surface. One scientist described it as the weight of 50 jumbo jets stacked on top of you. That pressure actually compresses the water itself. A styrofoam cup lowered to these depths shrinks to the size of a thimble. Temperature stays remarkably consistent in the abyss, hovering between 2 and 3 degrees Celsius, or about 36 to 37 degrees Fahrenheit. The Hadal Zone runs even colder at 1 to 4 degrees Celsius, just above freezing, and it stays that way year-round regardless of what happens at the surface. And then there is the darkness. Sunlight cannot penetrate below about 1,000 meters, which means the abyssopelagic and Hadal zones exist in complete permanent night. No light means no photosynthesis, and no photosynthesis means the entire foundation of life as we understand it. Plants converting sunlight into energy simply does not exist down here, or so we thought. On February 17, 1977, a small submersible called Alvin descended to 2,500 meters near the Galapagos Islands, carrying scientists John Corliss, Tjeerd van Andel, Robert Ballard, and several others who were searching for hydrothermal vents, cracks in the seafloor where superheated water from Earth's interior escapes into the ocean. They found the vents, and they found something else, something nobody had expected to see. Clustered around those vents were giant tube worms stretching up to 2 meters long, along with clouds of shrimp, mussels the size of dinner plates, and crabs, an entire ecosystem thriving in total darkness, miles below the surface in water heated to temperatures that should have killed everything living. This discovery changed our understanding of life on Earth at a fundamental level. These organisms were not relying on sunlight at all, they were relying on chemistry. The process is called chemosynthesis. Bacteria living in and around the vents harvest energy from inorganic chemicals, primarily hydrogen sulfide, and use that energy to produce organic matter. These bacteria form the base of the food web in these environments. Tube worms have no mouth, no gut, and no anus, but they harbor billions of chemosynthetic bacteria inside their bodies that provide all the nutrition they need. What the Galapagos discovery proved was revolutionary in the truest sense. Life can exist completely independent of the sun, and as long as there is chemical energy and liquid water, life can find a way. 2 years later, on April 15, 1979, which happened to be Easter Sunday, scientists discovered something even more extreme called black smokers. These are hydrothermal vents that discharge fluid at temperatures reaching 400 degrees Celsius, with the highest recorded temperature hitting 380 degrees plus or minus 30, and the water stays liquid only because of the crushing pressure. Dark fluid billowing from black smokers carries dissolved minerals, and living in those superheated plumes are organisms called Pompeii worms that survive temperatures up to 80 degrees Celsius, making them among the most heat-tolerant animals known to science. And here is something almost unbelievable. Some green sulfur bacteria living at hydrothermal vents actually do photosynthesize, but not from sunlight. They use the faint thermal glow produced by superheated water because the temperature runs so extreme that the water itself emits a dim light, and life found a way to use even that. More than 500 active hydrothermal vent fields have now been located around the world, with the deepest being the BB vent field in the Mid-Cayman Rise at 4,160 meters. Hydrothermal vents grab attention because they are dramatic, but they are not the only chemosynthetic ecosystems in the deep sea. Between 1983 and 1984, scientists discovered cold seeps at the Florida Escarpment, 3,200 meters down, and unlike vents which burn hot and typically last only decades, cold seeps remain stable. Hydrogen sulfide and methane seep slowly from the seafloor, and the communities they support can persist for thousands of years. Tube worms at cold seeps may live for over 200 years, with some estimates suggesting even longer lifespans. In 2025, scientists discovered the deepest cold seep chemosynthetic community ever found. Colonies containing thousands of tube worms and bivalves at 9,533 meters in the Japan Trench, life pushing into the Haddle Zone, into conditions previously considered too extreme for complex ecosystems. Then there are whale falls. When a whale dies and its carcass sinks to the seafloor, it delivers an enormous amount of organic material in a single event. A 40-ton whale carcass delivers organic carbon 2,000 times faster than the gentle rain of marine snow, which is the constant shower of dead plankton, fecal matter, and debris drifting down from above. A single whale fall can support an entire ecosystem for 50 to 100 years, and scientists estimate roughly 690,000 large whale carcasses rest on the seafloor at any given time, spaced an average of 12 kilometers apart. Whale falls have their own bizarre specialists. Osedax worms, commonly called zombie worms, have no mouth, no gut, and no anus, just like hydrothermal vent tube worms, but zombie worms have a different trick. They dissolve whale bones using acid-secreting root-like structures, breaking down the bone to release fats and proteins that symbiotic bacteria then convert into nutrition. Zombie worms exhibit one of the most extreme cases of sexual dimorphism known anywhere in nature. Females can reach a few centimeters in length, while males are microscopic, so small that over 100 can live inside a single female. Scientists have found one female carrying 111 males. What makes this even stranger is that zombie worms have been eating bones for at least 100 million years, which predates whales themselves. They evolved to consume the bones of marine reptiles and only switched to cetaceans when whales became available. For most of the deep sea, though, life depends on marine snow. Marine snow is exactly what it sounds like, a continuous, gentle snowfall of organic particles drifting down from the sunlit surface waters. Dead phytoplankton, zooplankton fecal pellets, mucus and bacteria all clump together into flakes that can reach several centimeters across and sink about 100 meters per day. Approximately 815 million tons of carbon reach the ocean floor each year through marine snow, serving as the primary energy source for most abyssal organisms. The problem is that it is not much. By the time organic matter reaches the abyss, organisms in the layers above have already consumed most of it, and what reaches the bottom is the leftovers of leftovers. That scarcity has shaped everything about deep-sea life, from how organisms look to how they move, how they reproduce, and how they survive. The animals inhabiting these depths have evolved solutions that seem more like science fiction than biology. Below 1,000 meters there is no sunlight, but that does not mean there is no light at all. Between 76 and 90% of deep-sea organisms produce their own light through bioluminescence, and in the zone between 200 and 1,000 meters, that number reaches 80%. Bioluminescence has evolved at least 40 separate times across marine lineages, with ray-finned fishes alone evolving it 27 separate times, making bioluminescence possibly the most common form of communication on the planet. Animals use their light for everything, attracting mates, luring prey, confusing predators, and illuminating the darkness to hunt. The stoplight loosejaw has perhaps the most sophisticated adaptation because it produces red bioluminescence. Most deep-sea animals can only see blue light, since blue penetrates deepest into the ocean, while red does not penetrate at all, which means most deep-sea creatures are essentially blind to red light. The stoplight loosejaw carries a secret spotlight that illuminates prey without the prey ever knowing it is being watched. The anglerfish dangles a bioluminescent lure in front of its enormous jaws, but the anglerfish has another claim to fame, one of the most extreme reproductive strategies ever documented. Male anglerfish run about 60 times smaller than females. When a male finds a female, he bites into her flesh and never lets go, his tissues fusing with hers, his blood vessels connecting to hers, and then he begins to dissolve. He loses his eyes, his fins, his digestive system, everything except his reproductive organs, becoming a permanent parasitic appendage, nothing more than a sperm-producing lump on the female's body. One female can carry 6 or more males simultaneously. In 2020, scientists discovered that anglerfish have evolved to lack functional immune systems, which is the only reason their bodies do not reject the fused males as foreign tissue. Deep-sea animals also exhibit something called gigantism, growing to enormous sizes compared to their shallow water relatives. Giant isopods are the most famous example. Related to the pillbugs you might find in your garden, giant isopods can reach 76 centimeters, about 2.5 feet long, roughly 80 times larger than their terrestrial cousins. Giant isopods rank among the most resilient creatures on Earth. In captivity, one refused to eat for over 5 years before finally dying. They have been filmed attacking and eating shark faces. Their metabolism runs so slow, and their needs are so minimal that they can survive astonishing periods without food. Japanese spider crabs can span up to 3.7 meters, which is 12 feet from claw tip to claw tip. The colossal squid has eyes measuring up to 30 centimeters across, the largest of any known animal, and those eyes exist to detect the faint bioluminescent glow of predators in the darkness. Giant squid can reach lengths of 13 meters or more, and for centuries they were the stuff of legend. The first photographs of a live giant squid in its natural habitat were not captured until September 30th, 2004, by Japanese researcher Tsunemi Kubodera. The first video followed in 2012. The first footage in American waters was not captured until June 19, 2019, in the Gulf of Mexico. On March 9, 2025, exactly 100 years after the colossal squid species was first identified from specimens, the Schmidt Ocean Institute captured the first ever footage of a live colossal squid in its natural habitat, a 30-centimeter juvenile filmed at 600 meters depth. Gigantism is not the only strategy, though. Many deep-sea fish have evolved in the opposite direction, developing small bodies, minimal muscles, slow metabolisms, and bizarre adaptations for an environment of extreme scarcity. The Mariana snailfish holds the record for the deepest fish ever documented. First collected in 2014 and officially named in 2017, Mariana snailfish have been found between 6,598 and 8,076 meters. In August 2022, a snailfish was filmed in the Izu Ogasawara Trench at 8,336 meters, which is 27,349 feet, making it the deepest fish ever recorded on camera. Snailfish have no functional swim bladder, which would be useless at extreme pressure anyway, and their bodies are gelatinous and flexible to help equalize pressure. Their muscles are sparse, and their metabolisms run slow. Scientists believe there is a theoretical depth limit for fish somewhere between 8,200 and 8,400 meters. Beyond that point, a compound called TMAO, which fish use to stabilize their proteins against pressure, cannot function. No fish should be able to survive much below where that snailfish was filmed. Life keeps surprising us though. The barrel-eye fish has a completely transparent fluid-filled head with tubular eyes pointed upward that can actually rotate within that transparent dome to look in different directions. Scientists only discovered the eyes could rotate in 2009 because previous specimens had always had their fragile heads destroyed during collection. Then there are organisms that challenge our very definition of what an animal can be. Xenophyrophores are giant single-celled protists. Yes, single-celled, that can reach 24 to 25 centimeters across, making them among Earth's largest single-celled organisms. They create intricate structures from materials they collect from the seafloor and serve as habitat and nurseries for fish and other invertebrates. Siphonophores are colonial organisms made up of specialized individuals working together. In 2020, the Schmidt Ocean Institute discovered a siphonophore estimated at 46 meters long, potentially the longest animal ever recorded. Humans have dreamed of reaching the deep ocean for centuries, but the technology to actually do so is remarkably recent. The first deep ocean exploration device was the bathysphere, designed between 1928 and 1929 by Otis Barton, essentially a steel sphere with thick quartz windows lowered on a cable from a surface ship. On June 6, 1930, William Beebe and Otis Barton descended to 803 feet, a record at the time. 4 years later, on August 15, 1934, Beebe and Barton reached 3,728 feet, which is 923 meters, and that record stood for 15 years. The bathysphere had a fundamental limitation, though. It was tethered, and if the cable snapped, everyone inside would die. The solution came from Swiss physicist Auguste Piccard, who designed the bathyscaphe, a free-diving vessel that could descend and ascend under its own power. His son Jacques-Semi Piccard continued the work and built the Trieste. On January 23, 1960, Jacques Piccard and U.S. Navy Lieutenant Don Walsh climbed into the Trieste and began a descent that would take nearly 5 hours, their destination being Challenger Deep, the deepest point in the ocean. At 10,116 meters, later recalculated from an original reading of 11,041 meters, they touched bottom. Through the small viewport, Walsh later recalled seeing a flatfish swimming away across the sediment. Life at the deepest point on Earth. They spent about 20 minutes on the bottom before beginning the ascent, and it would be 52 years before anyone went back. On March 26, 2012, filmmaker James Cameron squeezed into a vertical torpedo-shaped submersible called Deep Sea Challenger and dropped into the abyss, targeting the same Challenger Deep that Piccard and Walsh had reached half a century earlier. Cameron reached 10,908 meters, which is 35,787 feet, becoming the first person to make the dive solo, and he spent about 3 hours on the bottom filming and collecting samples. When he surfaced, Cameron described the experience this way. When you see that faint glow in your spotlights, you know they're bouncing back off the bottom of the ocean. There's a while there when you think there's not even a bottom down there. You just keep going and going. He also received an unexpected communication during his dive, saying later, "Here I am in the most remote place on planet Earth that's taken all this time and energy and technology to reach, and I feel like the most solitary human being on the planet, completely cut off from humanity. No chance of rescue, in a place no human eyes have ever seen, and my wife calls me." The next breakthrough came from explorer Victor Vescovo. Between 2018 and 2019, Vescovo led the 5 Deeps expedition, attempting to dive to the deepest point in all 5 of Earth's oceans. The Puerto Rico Trench came in December 2018 at 8,356 meters, followed by the South Sandwich Trench in February 2019 at 7,434 meters, then the Java Trench in April 2019 at 7,192 meters. On April 28, 2019, Vescovo descended to Challenger Deep in his submersible limiting factor and touched bottom at 10,128 meters, slightly deeper than Cameron's dive, setting a new world record for the deepest crewed descent ever achieved. The expedition concluded in August 2019 with a dive to the Malloy Deep in the Arctic Ocean at 5,550 meters. Vescovo described his first feeling afterward as relief that the submersible functioned exactly as planned and that he could explore the bottom for hours. The next feeling was one of excitement and, quite frankly, wonder and curiosity. He added, "I had the very bottom of the ocean all to myself," Vescovo said, setting out to explore like a 10-year-old on their first bicycle in an unknown town. That is what it felt like. What he found there was not all wonder, though. At the bottom of Challenger Deep, the most remote point on Earth, Vescovo found a plastic bag and candy wrappers. The deepest plastic bag ever documented was photographed by the Japanese ROV Kaiko at 10,398 meters in 1998. In the Philippine Trench, plastic bags have been filmed being dragged along the seafloor by currents, leaving tire track-like marks in the sediment. Researchers have found that 89% of plastic discovered deeper than 6,000 meters is single-use. More than 40 people have now visited Challenger Deep. In November 2020, China's submersible Fenduji reached 10,909 meters with 3 passengers aboard. The submersible limiting factor, later renamed Bakunawa, became the first vehicle certified to full ocean depth and capable of repeated dives, and it was sold to video game developer Gabe Newell's company Inkfish in 2022. Meanwhile, the venerable DSV Alvin, commissioned on June 5, 1964, has completed over 5,200 dives. Originally capable of reaching 6,000 feet, it was upgraded to a titanium hull in 1973, extending its range to 12,000 feet. Between 2022 and 2024, Alvin underwent another major upgrade, extending its depth capability to 6,500 meters, and it can now access 99% of the ocean floor. In 2024, Alvin reached nearly 5,000 meters in the Aleutian Trench and discovered a new off-axis hydrothermal vent site on the East Pacific Rise. Despite these achievements, our ignorance of the deep ocean remains staggering. According to NOAA, more than 80% of the ocean remains unexplored by any measure. A 2024 study published in Science Advances calculated that less than 0.01% of the deep sea floor has been directly observed, an area roughly the size of Rhode Island. As of June 2025, only 27.3% of the global seafloor has been mapped with modern, high-resolution multi-beam sonar, which is about 120 million square kilometers. And that sounds impressive until you realize it equals roughly 3 times the moon's total surface area. We have mapped more of Mars and Venus than we have of our own ocean floor. The cost to map the entire ocean floor to the same resolution as Mars comes to approximately $3 billion. Dr. Sylvia Earle, the legendary marine biologist nicknamed Her Deepness, put it this way: 50 years ago, when I began exploring the ocean, no one, not Jacques Perrin, not Jacques Cousteau or Rachel Carson, imagined that we could do anything to harm the ocean by what we put into it or by what we took out of it. It seemed at that time to be a Sea of Eden, but now we know, and we are now facing paradise lost. The numbers on species discovery are humbling. Scientists estimate there are between 700,000 and 1 million species in the ocean, and 2/3 remain undiscovered. Approximately 2,000 new species are accepted by the scientific community each year. In 2021, researchers studying the Mariana Trench discovered 7,564 microbial species, 89% of which were new to science. A 2024 expedition to the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, a vast abyssal plain in the Pacific, identified 738 species at 4,000-meter depth, and most had never been documented before. In January 2025, Ocean Census announced 866 new marine species discovered in a single year, including a new species of guitar shark and venomous gastropods with potential pharmaceutical applications. On the Argentina margin in 2024, researchers found more than 40 suspected new species, including glass squid and telescope octopus. The deep ocean is not running out of surprises. We have barely begun to look. In July 2024, scientists published a discovery in Nature Geoscience that challenged one of the most fundamental assumptions in biology, that oxygen production requires sunlight. Researchers studying polymetallic nodules, potato-sized rocks rich in manganese, nickel, cobalt, and copper at 4,000-meter depth discovered something unexpected. The nodules were producing oxygen, not through photosynthesis, through electrochemistry. The nodules can generate up to 0.95 volts of electrical potential, enough to split water molecules through electrolysis and release oxygen gas, and the process happens in complete darkness miles below the surface. Scientists have nicknamed it dark oxygen. The discovery carries enormous implications. If oxygen can be produced without sunlight, it changes how we think about the origins of life on Earth and how we think about the possibility of life on other worlds. And it adds a new layer of complexity to a debate already reshaping international policy: the question of deep-sea mining. Beneath the abyssal plains of the Pacific Ocean, scattered across an area called the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, lie trillions of polymetallic nodules containing nickel, cobalt, copper, and manganese, metals essential for electric vehicle batteries and the green energy transition. The Clarion-Clipperton Zone alone holds an estimated 21 billion metric tons of nodules, more copper, cobalt, nickel, and manganese than all known land deposits combined. One consulting firm has estimated the total value of deep-sea mining opportunities at $20 trillion. The case for mining seems straightforward. These minerals are critical for renewable energy. Industry-commissioned studies claim deep-sea mining produces 90% less carbon dioxide emissions than land-based mining. There is no deforestation and no displacement of human communities. The resources are just sitting there on the seafloor waiting to be collected. The case against mining is equally compelling and growing louder. Scientists estimate between 6,000 and 8,000 undiscovered species live in the Clarion-Clipperton Zone alone. The nodules take millions of years to form, making removal effectively irreversible on any human timescale. Sediment plumes from mining operations could spread for kilometers, smothering organisms adapted to stable conditions over geological time. And now we know those same nodules produce dark oxygen, potentially supporting ecosystems we are only beginning to understand. In July 2024, a researcher studying the nodules put it bluntly: mining them might mean destroying something we do not even know exists yet. The regulatory landscape is shifting rapidly. The International Seabed Authority, established to regulate mining in international waters, has issued 31 exploration contracts, 17 of them for nodules in the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, but no exploitation licenses have been granted. The mining code remains incomplete, with more than 30 major regulatory issues unresolved. 37 countries now support a moratorium or precautionary pause on deep-sea mining, up from 17 in 2023. The United Kingdom, France, Germany, Spain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Palau have all called for a halt, while China, Japan, Russia, India, and Norway have pushed to continue. The situation evolves almost monthly. In April 2025, a Trump administration executive order called to restore American dominance in offshore critical minerals. Later that month, a company called the Metals Company applied to NOAA for a commercial recovery permit, bypassing the International Seabed Authority entirely, and the ISA declared the move a violation of international law. Scientists from 44 countries have called for a moratorium on deep-sea mining until we understand what we would be destroying. There is hope on the conservation front, though. On September 19, 2025, Morocco became the 60th country to ratify the High Seas Treaty, officially known as the BBNJ Agreement for Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction, triggering the treaty's entry into force scheduled for January 17, 2026. The High Seas Treaty represents the first legal mechanism to create marine protected areas in international waters, the high seas that cover roughly half the planet and belong to no nation. It marks a critical step toward achieving the global target of protecting 30% of ocean territory by 2030. The treaty won the 2025 Earthshot Prize in the Revive Our Oceans category. Dr. Sylvia Earle has spent more than 50 years exploring the ocean. In 1979, she set a record for the deepest untethered dive at 381 meters in a specialized diving suit. She became the first woman to serve as chief scientist at NOAA and founded Mission Blue, an initiative to establish marine protected areas around the world. She has been trying to get humanity to understand a simple truth. No water, no life, Earle has said. No blue, no green. Even if you never have the chance to see or touch the ocean, she explained. The ocean touches you with every breath you take, every drop of water you drink, every bite you consume. Everyone, everywhere is inextricably connected to and utterly dependent upon the existence of the sea. The deep ocean is not just a curiosity, it is part of the system that regulates our climate, produces our oxygen, and cycles the nutrients that support all life on Earth. Marine snow, that constant, gentle drift of organic material from surface waters to the deep, is part of the biological carbon pump drawing carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and sequestering it in the deep sea. Scientists have found that microplastic pollution slows this process by 20% and can reduce phytoplankton carbon fixation by up to 45%. The chemosynthetic ecosystems at hydrothermal vents and coal seeps represent a model for how life might exist on other worlds, moons like Europa and Enceladus with their subsurface oceans and potential hydrothermal activity. The organisms of the deep sea may hold answers to problems we have not yet learned to ask. The venomous gastropods discovered by ocean census in 2025 are already being investigated for pharmaceutical applications. Enzymes from thermophilic bacteria at hydrothermal vents are used in biotechnology. The mechanisms that allow deep-sea fish to survive extreme pressure could inform human medicine. Every time we look, we find something new, something unexpected, something that forces us to revise what we thought we knew. Victor Vescovo summed up the philosophy of deep-sea exploration this way. The whole point was to develop a system, the crew, the sonar, the technology, that would allow access to any part of the ocean. I think we've proven the point that we can go anywhere and do good science. And we are going. NOAA Ocean Exploration conducted 6 mapping expeditions around Hawaii and Johnston Atoll in 2024, with more planned for the Aleutian Arc, and Papahanaumokuakea in 2025. The Schmidt Ocean Institute's research vessel, Falkor 2, continues offering free ship time to scientists, exploring Chile's margin hydrothermal vents and the Nazca and Salas Kiwai Gomez ridges, where researchers found over 100 new species in 2024, along with the deepest mesophotic corals in the world. ROV technology advances rapidly. Nauticus Robotics has developed the Aquanaut, the first hybrid vehicle capable of transforming between autonomous and remotely operated modes. Multi-vehicle swarm coordination systems are under development, and artificial intelligence is being applied to automated species classification. The global underwater drones market, valued at $5.1 billion in 2024, is projected to reach $16.7 billion by 2034. New submersibles keep pushing the boundaries of human exploration. National Geographic's Argonauta, deployed in 2024, features a 360-degree bubble window, 14-hour mission capacity, and quiet thrusters designed to minimize disturbance to the animals it observes. We began with a premise that 70% of Earth's seafloor lies below 10,000 feet, and that less than 0.01% of it has been directly observed. What we have seen in the parts we have explored suggests the rest is full of wonders we cannot yet imagine, life that thrives in conditions we once thought impossible, creatures with adaptations that seem more alien than anything we might find on another planet, ecosystems that operate on timescales of centuries built on energy sources that have nothing to do with the sun. The deep ocean is not empty. It is not lifeless. It is not a void to be exploited without consequence. It is a frontier, perhaps the last true frontier on Earth. Dr. Edie Widder, one of the world's leading experts on bioluminescence and a pioneer of deep-sea exploration, has said this: "The fact that there is this frontier on Earth is something that most people don't actually fully appreciate. A lot of kids think that there's no earthly frontiers left, that the only way that they're ever going to be able to explore a frontier is to go out into space, and that's just simply untrue. I get the appeal of wanting to go to Mars," she added, "but honestly, I can't imagine that anything you could find there could even remotely compare to the things that we're finding in the ocean." More than 40 people have now stood at the bottom of Challenger Deep. They have reported flatfish, shrimp, and amphipods. They have seen the silt disturbed by their landing rise in slow-motion clouds. They have watched as creatures that have never seen light in their existence swim curiously toward the glow of human technology. And they have found at the very bottom of the world evidence that we have already been there, in the form of plastic bags and candy wrappers drifting through the sediment. The deep ocean is connected to us whether we acknowledge it or not. It regulates our climate, produces our oxygen, shapes the chemistry of the water we drink, and the air we breathe. And it is home to perhaps 2/3 of all species on Earth that remain undiscovered. We know more about the surface of Mars than we do about the bottom of our own ocean, but that is not because the ocean is less important. It is because the ocean is harder to reach. The pressure crushes, the darkness swallows, the cold seeps into everything, and yet life finds a way. Giant worms cluster around vents that would boil flesh. Translucent snailfish drift through pressures that would implode a submarine. Single-celled organisms grow to the size of a fist. Males dissolve into females and become nothing more than reproductive organs. Worms eat bones with acid and harbor 100 mates inside their bodies. This is the story of a world we are only beginning to understand, a world that may hold the keys to life's origins, to medicine, to the possibility of life beyond Earth, a world that took billions of years to create and that we could irreparably damage in decades. We have barely scratched the surface, or rather, we have barely touched the bottom, and that is exactly why it matters.